What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of QnA, the show where I take your questions from Twitter and YouTube and answer them here on this show. And as always, if you want to make sure that your question gets seen or your question is eligible to be answered on this show, please make sure you subscribe, click that notification bell so you can be notified when I put the prompt up on the community page. So again, make sure you're notified when I do that. Without further ado, let's jump into these questions. And we're going to start with the question from Giants Nation, who says, "Hey, what's up, Quincy? My question this week is, who would you rather have, Dak or Wentz?" Me personally, I would take Dak. He's not as talented, but Wentz gets injured way too much. What would your take be? Yeah, I would agree with you. I would take Dak Prescott too, because again, when it comes to quarterbacks, an available quarterback, even if he's not as good as the special quarterback, if that guy's available and other guy's not, then Dak's much better. So, yeah, I would take Dak. And, I don't think Dak's that much worse than Carson Wentz, too, on top of that. So, the fact that he's healthy, yes, and also the fact that, he's actually a pretty good quarterback. Now, some people think he's a system guy. Some people don't. I always liked him coming out of Mississippi State, so I'm inclined to believe he's a little bit better than people give him credit for. Very accurate guy. Guy can get the ball a lot of places. So, yeah, I like Dak Prescott, and I would take him over Carson Wentz just because Carson Wentz just can't stay healthy. And if you can't stay healthy, then, it doesn't really matter how great you are. The next question comes from Ultimate Sports TV, who says, "Hey, Quincy, is Kareem Hunt a long-term guy for the Browns?" I don't foresee it, but the longer he's on the team, the more it looks like it's possible. If you would have asked me last year during this time of the year, if I would have thought Kareem Hunt would still be on this team this year, I would say the only way that's possible is if he got suspended again, and he did not. So I'm shocked he's still on the team, and as he stays on the team longer, as the big offers don't come in, he's only going to get older, and he's going to get more cheaper. So, the possibility of this guy staying on this team gets bigger by the day. So, I still don't think he's a long-term option for the Browns. I think he's going to have a really great year this year and get cashed out somewhere else. But, if he has a decent year but not a great year, and he re-ups in Cleveland for some decent money but not great money, then, that's really possible, in my opinion. The next question comes from Soul Train, who says, "Which of these is more likely? Myles Garrett getting 20-plus sacks, Nick Chubb getting around 2,000 yards rushing, or Baker Mayfield throwing close to 40 touchdowns?" Now, this is interesting, right? Because the two best players in this conversation are clearly Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett. But the question is, which one is more possible? And I think the bar for getting 40 touchdowns is a lot lower than the bar for getting 2,000 rushing yards or the bar for getting over 20 sacks. I mean, that's single season sack record territory there if Myles Garrett can do it. Now, he was on pace to do that last season. And I would say of these three, the two that are most possible are the sack and the touchdowns for Baker Mayfield. The yards for Nick Chubb, I don't think it's that possible. He's not all alone. And when you see running backs who have that kind of a year, they're normally alone on offense. They have no receiving game, no quarterback, no secondary running back. They just have to do the whole offense by themselves. See Adrian Peterson, 2012. See Saquon Barkley 2 years ago. So I don't think that's going to be the case, right? You look at the other two, the arguments that they could do this is a lot easier to make. Myles Garrett, he's probably going to have the bulk of the sack production for this team. So 20 sacks, it's not out the realm of possibility. It would be a surprise, a pleasant surprise, but it wouldn't be out the realm of possibility. Baker Mayfield throwing 40 touchdowns, that seems kind of likely, to be honest with you. One, I think they're going to be able to make a lot of quick strike touchdowns with Jarvis and Odell over there in a better offense. Also, I think this regime is going to be smart and use Odell in the red zone more often, which means some of those touchdown touches are going to go away from Nick Chubb and to Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. So I would say Baker's 40 touchdowns is the most possible. Second is Myles Garrett's 20-plus sacks. Third would be Nick Chubb's over 2,000 yards, unless somebody gets hurt, and a lot of people get hurt. Then Nick Chubb has a great chance to break 2,000 yards because he's that good of a back. I just don't think the offense is bare enough for them to have to rely on him to get that kind of production out of him. So that's how I think about that. But thank you for the question. Next question comes from RTR, who says, who do you see potentially taking a step back or underperforming? I'll be honest with you, I'm worried about Mack Wilson. And it's not because of anything Mack Wilson has done. It's just I don't like what they have surrounded Mack Wilson with. I don't think he has the support that he needs. Linebacking play is very affected by the people you play alongside and also, more importantly, the inside of that defensive line. I don't really love the inside of the Browns' defensive line. It's no secret. And I don't love what they have surrounded Mack Wilson with. I think Mack Wilson is a fine player, but I think he's a player who does need some veteran help, preferably a guy who's actually been good in the NFL before at that linebacking position. I just think it might be a case of too much too soon for Mack Wilson. New defense, a ton more responsibility than he ever dreamed of having last year. And he would also be the veteran of that group. And that's kind of that doesn't seem like the best scenario in order for Mack Wilson to succeed. Last year he had a decent year, but he was surrounded by, Joe Schobert, who was a veteran inside linebacker. He doesn't have that luxury. He has B.J. Goodson there, but B.J. Goodson hasn't really put his foothold in the NFL yet. He's not that good of a player, so I don't know how much help he can be to somebody like Mack Wilson, who's already better than him. So I worry about Mack Wilson, not because Mack Wilson's done anything, just because I'm not confident in the situation that they have surrounded Mack Wilson in. The next question comes from Wyatt Wyckoff, who says, hey, Quincy, really like the content. I wanted to ask you, besides just having football back, what are you looking forward to the most about watching the Browns this season? I'm really interested to see how the Browns incorporate both Odell, Jarvis, and Austin Hooper into this offense and what that's going to look like. Are they going to take a lot of shotgun snaps? Is this going to be a lot like Freddie Kitchens' original offense, or is this going to be more like San Francisco? I'm very intrigued to see how often they line up in certain packages, what kind of personnel they throw out there. The offense is going to be really intriguing and really important because I think they're going to be what carries this team to a lot of success this season. They have to get it right. So I would say I'm most excited about the offense, and I want to see specifically how this passing game is going to work and if Baker Mayfield is going to, continue this positive momentum that he has garnered throughout the offseason to recover from a bad year last year. So we'll see with that. Next question comes from Nick Mayfield, who says, what's up, Quincy? My question is, what are your thoughts on college football and high school football having much less problems than the NFL? And do you think it would be okay if college and high school happened, but the NFL suspended their season? I would say this first about the college and football comment here. There might be less things coming out about college football and high school football, but they're in much worse situations, in much more unstable situations than the NFL, than the MLB, than any other league that you have heard of. The reason you don't hear anything about it is because they're not professional leagues, which means they don't have unions. They don't have anybody who is professionally hired to represent the players in this situation. And that's what's going to make the noise in a situation like this, the players. There's nobody who is giving a voice or representing the players. There might be people who say that's their job, but ultimately they're hired by the university or the school itself. So not a lot of people there to say something. In high school, it might be a little bit different because you do have PTAs and, these are minors who are under the authority of parents, and parents have a lot more pull with the high school. But in college, it's free run. The parents don't really have that much of an authority over the entire institution itself. And that's why you haven't heard anything about high school and college football. And let me tell you, those aren't good situations. There's probably not going to be any testing going on. There's probably going to be horror stories about trying to start this season. Texas, I think, has either canceled or is on the verge of canceling their high scholl football season. So by in no way is high school football or college football doing better than the NFL. The reason you hear more about the NFL is because the NFL has to collective bargain with their players because the players have a union that is there to protect the well-being and the safety and the financial well-being of the players. That's what they exist to do, and that's why you're hearing things, and that's good. Again, I said this months ago. Noise before the season starts about what they're going to do about this whole situation is a lot better than noise during the season, because that's a catastrophe if these conversations and this noise is happening during the season like it's happening with baseball right now. That's a nightmare. Before, the NBA had a ton of conversation before. It's turning out fine so far. The NFL had a lot of conversation before after putting their hands in their pockets for way too long, in my opinion, but it seems like they had some conversation, and it seems like they're doing a decent job. Now, will college and high school sports happen? I doubt it. I don't think it's going to happen, much to the chagrin of a lot of seniors out there. I know that sucks, but it's probably not going to happen. It doesn't make sense that it would. I think right now people are being optimistic, but we'll see what happens there. The NFL, I was thinking about this, and I've been tough on the NFL, and I still think they need to do more. But one of the interesting things I had brought up to me was one of the reasons why the NFL might do a better job than what's going on with baseball, despite having a very similar plan, is because the NFL travels significantly less, right? In baseball, you have to go from town to town to town. And why that's important is because if you're going from town to town to town, it's easier for an outbreak to just spread across the entire league. Same thing with basketball before they bubbled up, obviously. And with the NFL, if there is an outbreak on a team, it's probably going to be known before they get to the game on Sunday. And if they do interact with that team, they can just shut down those two teams and figure it out and not let it spread to the rest of the league, because you only travel and interact with other teams but so often in the NFL. Again, 16 times for most teams. So the lack of travel might be what allows the NFL to do this a lot less messy than MLB. A sport like baseball, it's almost impossible because you're playing almost every day, especially with the shortened season. You're playing almost every day. And also, to add on top of that, I'm wondering if Thursday Night Football is going to continue the whole year. We'll keep an eye on that, because I think with what they're going to have to do with the shortened, I think with what they're going to have to do with testing, I think Thursday Night Football is either going to be like the sloppiest Thursday Night Football you've ever seen in your life, which it's already not good, or it's just going to become a complete embarrassment to the NFL. So we'll see what happens with Thursday Night Football, because that's going to be completely weird this year. And I just think they should just reschedule those Thursday night games to Sunday, or, they want to do Saturday night, they could do that. But I think Thursday is going to be really hard to maintain with everything they have to do. So that's kind of my thoughts on the NFL situation. I think they're in a better spot than they were a month ago. I still think there's a lot more they can do. I worry about it. And again, I'm really worried about this because this affects me. This affects everybody watching. So I just want them to do what it takes to make sure that this season finishes without people's lives being ruined or people's health being taken too far at risk. And that's what's important here. And I think the NFL is actually going down that direction. College football and high school, I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like we're going to hear some horror stories in either 6 months to a year from now, and it's going to be really damaging to the image of the sport if they kind of continue with these lower levels of play as brazenly as some people have tried to do. I am really concerned about what could come of it. And I hope that people kind of slow down and take a different approach. But again, that's why you haven't heard anything from high school and college. But again, I would be concerned. You might not hear anything about it until like December or January. It's going to be months after the attempts of the season or the seasons of these leagues take place that you're going to hear kind of the aftermath of it. But keep your ears open for that, because, that's going to be important. And I'm also hugely concerned about that. The next question comes from the Vault Dweller, who says, do you think the Browns will make a move at linebacker or defensive line to shore up any holes on the defense? If the Browns are set up to do well this year, I see no reason not to do a trade for a first rounder or a solid linebacker. This year, I hope they go after Mike Daniels. I hope they trade for Sean Lee. I think those two would be tremendous signings and tremendous help to this defense that needs veteran leadership in those two specific areas, and needs exactly what those two players can bring at their advanced age. But I don't think it's going to happen. There's nothing that's suggesting that that's moving in that direction. But we'll see. We'll see. I think they have to do something at defensive tackle. I think Andrew Berry's aware since Billings has opted out. They're going to have to do something there. I don't know if it's going to be Mike Daniels. Now, you suggested trading a first-round pick for a linebacker. Oh, my God, absolutely not. Do not, under any circumstance, trade a first-round pick for a veteran linebacker, because they are almost never valued at that unless their cap is incredibly high, and you just let Joe Schobert walk because of his cap. And I stand behind that reasoning. So no. If you have to trade it, like a 4th round pick at most for a veteran linebacker is what you need to give out. You don't need to be giving out 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round picks for a veteran linebacker. They're not that valuable. They're valuable, but they're not that valuable. It's like, I think of it a lot like a running back. Would you trade a 1st round pick for a running back? Maybe if it's Saquon Barkley, but who's out there that's a linebacker that you're not going to trade for? Darius Leonard. Like, that's not going to happen. So 3rd round pick at best for that trade for a linebacker. And it has to be like a former Pro Bowl linebacker too to justify it, because it's going to be crazy. This next question is from Dominic Danger, who says, "Hey, Quincy, I got to ask you this question. You've talked a lot about the holes on the Browns defensive line and at linebacker, but I was wondering, after those two positions, which spots on the team do you think need improvement?" I'm interested to see what the competition for tight end 2 is going to look like. I don't know if David Njoku's a fit, but we'll see what they got in plan. I like what they have on paper for the secondary. I like the depth and the veteran they have. I really want to see how Grant Delpit plays in his first year, and I really want to see how Greedy Williams plays in his second year. I think those two are going to be really important to watch. But I do think the secondary is strong. I think my biggest gripes with this team and this roster is just the linebackers and defensive linemen. I think those are the 2 spots that they need to improve. The front 7 is kind of a mess, but you got Myles Garrett, so you do have some safety in that. It's just, I would like them to build more upon that. But that's it for this week's questions. Thank you guys for asking. And again, guys, have a great day and have a good night.